For this 3-part build series, I've made a smooth, rounded container to put carefully selected items within. Allow me to lift the lid and we'll take a closer look at the methods I utilised for its construction. Before I launch into this 3-part build series, I wanted to take a moment to highlight some key aspects of this object. This project features an original design lid inlay, a wooden hinge, and a power carved base that conceals a miniature room containing a cryptic message for an inquisitive-minded individual lurking somewhere in time. Inspired after salvaging an oak offcut marked as firewood, I challenged myself to make a useful and interesting object from said offcut. First, it was a matter of measuring out and designing a template to fit within the parameters of the salvaged timber. After completing the layout, I developed an unsettling reaction, so I started again and came up with an alternative to soothe the anxiety caused by the unswerving presence of too many straight lines within the design. Whew, that's better. Here I'm using randomly selected fingers to indicate and draw your attention to a series of location and center points. These anchor points are in fact fundamentally important keyholes. When used correctly, they will unlock and guide me through to a successfully built project, as long as I use the appropriate keys. Taking inspiration from nature isn't really an option for me, as I don't think I'm the person to improve on perfection. Instead, I try to take inspiration from whatever irritation drives its way into my mind's eye socket, lodging itself there until it generates a sufficient amount of irritation for me to notice. It seems the only way to relieve the irritation is to take that irritating vision and bring it into reality. A reality in which this object I am to manifest will be made predominantly using various routers fitted with a variety of cutting and shaping bits. I've included a brief cleaning scene, as it was a decisive moment from which I unleashed my waste containment and management project. To see this project, you can follow this link, or there's a link in the description. To begin this process, I'm hollowing out the base by removing the majority of the material with a spiral straight cutting router bit and a brass bushing as its guide. Then, to give human hands smooth, unfettered access, I'm removing the harsh inside corner of the plunged cut depressions using a dish cutting router bit, forming a smooth transition from base to wall. Yeah, that feels sufficiently gutted. Here I've deployed a finger to indicate my intentions for an upcoming manoeuvre. This move involves a drill bit placed in pre-drilled holes to guide and continue the 8mm location holes. It is my intention to use these holes throughout the project to keep components and templates in line. Off camera, I increased the thickness of the template by adding a duplicated layer of MDF, which inhibits the amount of depth the router bit can achieve while the bearing remains under strict and necessary guidance. To reduce the bulk and weight of the lid, I'm cutting a section from it. This section will then be split into two more pieces that will eventually be formed into the lid inlay features. I'm doing this to maintain grain continuity. I'm preparing the top of the lid to receive two shaped boreholes, which will leave two cavities. These cavities will be filled with and feature an original design based on an earlier project of mine named Oculus. Before I move on to making the cavities in the lid, I'm using a template I made earlier as a floating central pivot point for the router. This is where I begin cutting the outside shape of the body. Because I still need the location points to complete the project, I'm not cutting all the way through yet, that comes later. Now I'm making further use of the template to transfer corresponding 4mm holes into the base and lid. These holes will have custom-made brass incisors implanted into them. Then these teeth will maintain alignment of the lid and base to mitigate dislocation. It's the middle portion of this section I want to keep, which leaves enough material for me to cut off two pieces from both sides to be used to make the hinge. I used a 1/2-inch roundover bit in the table router to begin shaping these sections, then fine-tuned the size with a dowel making jig I made following the excellent video on the topic by COSMAN'S. There's a link in the description. Satisfying. While everything required for making dowels was set up, I used the optimal conditions and generated several sections of dowel to use on future projects or as failure insurance. These two pieces of 4mm dowel are a temporary measure to ensure the lid and body meet and stay in the correct position when I glue the hinge in position. But first, there's another section I need to complete. Before installing the wood hinge, I'm going to add some detail to the lid prior to it being attached to the body, so I'm preparing inlay receptacles ready to receive detailed inserts. The template I used for gutting the body is now employed to repeat similar cutouts in the lid, except these cavities will accommodate some accentuated details, not fingers. With a sharp point in hand, the process of creating positive duplicates of the insert voids begins. To comfortably maneuver these insert templates as I attempt a perfect fit, I'm attaching some ergonomic grip points to ease the user experience. From here, all that's required now is a little fine-tuning. Then just a little more, maybe a touch more. Relax, I'll handle it. Before splitting this section in two and adding details, I made it a little more substantial and glued an additional section on, then left it to cure overnight.